Jurassic World Minute, the minute podcast reviewing 1997 sequel Jurassic Park 1 minute time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And here we are at the end of the week to discuss minute 74. And Dita's still not dead. But before we get to that, it's approaching 105 degrees here in the operations building. I'm very warm. David, you want to swap spots? Aren't you going into winter over there?
Yeah, we are very near winter, so it's currently just a little below freezing, the freezing point here.
That's fine. I can put a jacket on. It's interesting. They've recently called for. There's been some advertisements for jobs in Antarctica, leaving out of Melbourne, and this time of year over here where it's nudging 104. On Tuesday it's going to be 110, so too hot. But speaking of hot, and I do mean hot, Ironhead Studios released this past week prices for their upcoming diorama set, and we're worried. Now I'm scared. The Ian Malcolm and Dr. Grant figure have been estimated retail at $89.99 US dollars. The T-Rex art scale custom, which seems to have its own base, it hasn't been shown yet, has a retail of $649 or $650. The way the Rex is posed, you'd think that the Explorer would be the base, but they must have something else, maybe a little bit of rock or something for it to have that front leg up on. And not.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused. I assumed that the base with the fence and all that was going to be the base. Apparently not.
Yeah. And also because that ruined Explorer isn't part of anything apart from the entire set. So the only way to get Lex and Tim and that upturned Explorer is to get the entire set by the looks of these listings anyway. The Jungle Explorer, which would be the second one that Alan and Malcolm's just getting out of, has its own custom base, which we again haven't seen yet, and that retail is $650 US. Yay. Or you can get the two separate sets. Set 1, or Set A, is the left base back, the fence and plants, Car, Tim and Lex, and a T-Rex, which is that whole left-hand side of the diorama. And then Set B is the middle section, which is only really the damaged fence, and the right-hand section, which includes Malcolm, Grant, that side of the fence, that side of the plants, and the base as well, which both sets are $1,200 USD. So adding all that up, if you want to get both sides, you're looking at about $3,800 USD, which sadly puts this outside of my price range. Even with a payment plan, that's just too much.
Yeah, still worth it though. I mean, considering how much some of Chronicle's stuff is, I mean, if Chronicle were to do this, it would be way more than $3,800. We know that.
Well, we've had the hint of a possible Explorer. We'll see in the next few months what that's going to be. I think, Dave, you're sort of looking at maybe getting just either a Grant or a Malcolm, and maybe not both.
Maybe, probably.
Yeah, I don't know if I could pick one or the other. For $90, I could probably see just getting the both of them, and maybe the Explorer. It's a big ticket item though, being $650. But that at least now we've got an idea of what the prices are. Unfortunately, they're sort of those higher end collector prices. The only benefit now is going to be whether or not there's some sort of payment plan, so we can have 6 to 10 months to pay these off.
Careful. This suit costs more than your education.
But speaking of collector items, Dave, you finally succumb to the maquettes collectors.
Yes, I did. I mean, okay. Not many chances you're going to be able to get a life-size dinosaur in your home, so I finally pulled the trigger on the Chronicle Collectibles compy.
Now it's the male, or the
I
female.
previously, what's that?
It's the male, or the female.
It's the
Design.
male, yeah.
Yep, the male. Yep.
And it's beautifully done. Their paint on the proto was done by Tim Gore. It came out a little glossy on the proto, but they seem to have brought that sheen down a little bit on the final paint version. And it looks really cool. I gotta say, I'm really excited to get this piece.
Yeah, and we talked about early on. I'd have to get more than one, but having at least it's 1-to-1 scale. So having that there, you now have, even sort of removing it from the franchise itself, you now have a 1-to-1 scale Compsognathus Davis, or you will have shortly, in your collection. Now, just having any 1-to-1 dinosaur, no matter what the design or scale or whatever else is fantastic. So, and we've all seen the photos of your Tyrannosaur you got done. I can't wait to see once you get this compy out.
Yeah. Oh, you know I'm going to be sticking it in some bushes.
And that's where I wish the neck was sort of latex and posable, and even the legs, like just so you could have that pose of it coming through the ferns at Dieter or... Yeah. But still, fantastic buy, man. Congrats.
Yeah. And like I said in the previous minute, I do love the compies. I remember doing a dinosaur roleplay back when Jurassic Park Legacy was still up. I had my first character, and probably one of my favorites was I had a little Compsognathus character called Thrasher.
Yep.
Of course, you guys all know where the name came from. And I mean, it was just had like a little Spitfire personality that I gave it. It was tenacious. He was fearless. It was funny. I think one of the things I did with him, and is everybody kind of laughed at me for it, but I thought it was funny, was that I went up and started bugging a friend of mine's character is an iguanodon. And I was just kind of like nipping at it, and it just kind of looked at me like, shoo. I can step on you so easily. Why are you bugging me?
Yeah, yep. Oh, fantastic.
But that's what compies are. That's what I always felt like the compy was. It was this Spitfire personality in a dinosaur that it had the Napoleonic complex of dinosaurs, where it was a little dinosaur, but it had such a fearless personality that it probably would in real life try to take on a larger dinosaur, you know?
And there's this...
I can imagine the Jurassic Park compies in a pack, trying to just swarm a velociraptor.
Yeah, yep.
Boldly, stupidly, and probably unsuccessfully, but they would try.
In the right circumstance, if that raptor had a broken leg or some sort of damage because the pack had gone up against a herbivore and come off second best, even if that one raptor had got injured during the attack. Again, these are all things I'd love to see on film, where unfortunately they're sadly only in sort of novel base, because people want to see carnivores winning, not dying. But we see here with Dieter that it just they've got the power, like in numbers. In numbers, they rule supreme.
Pretty much. I mean, compies are successful in taking down one single helpless prey, or not helpless, but injured prey, and that's pretty much their entire food base, is cleaning up scraps and taking down the injured. They're kind of like, I don't know, sharks. I would say piranhas was a good analog when they discussed them in ILM, is because they kind of take down those kind of the scraps and the garbage and everything else that would kind of dirty up the place. Yeah, you know.
And there's a bit of a misconception, I'll say. Although I'm pretty sure I've seen live stuff getting mauled. But piranhas normally, they're sort of, if there's a dead carcass or something in the stream, they'll sense the water just like a shark can sense blood, and go in, just strip, completely strip a carcass of its flesh. I'm not even going to suggest stepping in the water with piranhas, but I don't know how to go against something live, because you're not really sending out an aroma of blood or rotten flesh.
Yeah.
And the comp is the same. Like, yes, mostly if there's a fallen animal or a dead animal, they're like the hyenas that come in to pick the body clean towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see 100 compies going after a Pachycephalosaurus or a Parasaurolophus that's alive and able to fight. They're more of that scavenger and more of the cleaning up. And both novels sort of... The whole reason they were in Jurassic Park in a novel was to, frankly, eat shit. I don't know how that diet would...
cleanup crew.
Yeah, I don't know how that diet would help them.
Not really sure either. It kind of surprised me when Crichton included that, because that just seems such an off-the-wall kind of thing. I mean, dung beetles do that, yeah, but they're beetles. I mean, they're not terrestrial, they're not terrestrial vertebrates at all.
And that's with the dung beetles, especially. That's sort of dung beetles here and there. There's not there isn't a massive problem in Africa of herbivore dung taking over the landscape. There's enough being spread over a certain landmass where the dung beetles are coming in and doing what they're doing. There's a lot of stuff that dung beetles aren't getting because of space and territory. Maybe it's just because the island's so small. They're sort of saying, well, these animals need food and they're gonna eat shit to do it. I don't. Yeah, it's just a weird one. Like, okay, well, we need to have these. Well, we've got this problem. You got brachiosaurs. Like in the novel, there was apatosaurs as well, and even smaller herbivores wandering the island. Now, I've grown up on a dairy farm, and I know that cows do eat a lot of grass. A lot of that grass comes back out. So you need that sort of yin to yang, I'll say. And maybe Crichton's seen the compies as that, whether he's just sort of said non-scientific, okay, we've got these little dinosaurs, the little dinosaurs are going to eat that. But here we are, 30 years later, and it's sort of a common thing that, okay, compies are the cleanup crew. And, of course, we have a large population of them on Sauna, so why not extend that to here as well? Whether it's just cleaning up dung, whether it's cleaning up skeletons. We don't see any around the Rex nest, which has a lot of dead bodies and flies, but
I would imagine that the baby T-Rex would take the niche of the compies, though, in that situation.
Yeah, but even like I've seen art of like small animals like that eating dragonflies and stuff like that. You'd think that sort of not only eat other dinosaurs and their carcasses, but sort of insects as well that come from these big animals roaming in the landscape. But
oh, no doubt that the compies were insectivorous.
The animals won't even know they're there. Very low impact, strictly observation and documentation.
But anyway, we've moved from figures into real life. Ready to get into 74?
Yeah.
All right. As we ended minute 73 of The Lost World, Dieter had taken a tumble down a sharp hill and landed in the creek bed. Several compies had attacked him. As we open on minute 74, he'd chased the compies away. At 73 minutes and 6 seconds, Dieter turns and walks back towards the water, looking at his hands and the blood from his lip. At 73 minutes and 12 seconds, the compies chased after him, and he turns to realise they're following him. Out of frustration, he charges at them, trying to scare him away. He looks down his belt and realises he has no weapons, so he picks up some rocks and throws at the compies. The tiny animals scatter left and right, and Dieter starts to mumble something in his native tongue, looking down again at his hands. At 73 minutes and 28 seconds, he turns and walks back towards the water again, yet the compies follow. At 73 minutes and 32 seconds, we cut back to the survivors at their rest area. Nick's looking suspicious. Roland bends over and picks up his rifle. Says, okay, break over. Let's move on. Sarah's enjoying a quiet nap. And Ludlow still doesn't seem to realise where they are. At 73 minutes and 52 seconds, a hunter comes up and tells Carter that they're leaving. After several attempts to get his attention, he bends over and picks up a stone and throws it towards Carter, who then realises and takes off his headphones. And as the minute ends, he picks up his backpack and they start to walk away. So, as we end the week, we open up with the compies hopping and chirping on their little log they've found across this creek. They've got all the time in the world, as we discussed last minute, whether or not the whole poison bite is true or not in the films. They're not displeased at all. They've sort of had their first little attack. They're happy to wait. If anything, they can wait until more numbers arrive, because there's not a lot here as well. But Dieter looks at them in disbelief, sort of, and he turns around and walks towards the large pool of water behind him, which I would have assumed would be to wash off the blood and on his hands.
Very good idea, though. I mean, dysentery?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Yep. He turns and sees the pack following him. It's like, you little bastards, leave me alone. And frustrated, he turns and he tries to chase them away by yelling, which, yeah, I'm there. I'm right there with him.
And then, of course, he picks up a rock from the creek bed and tosses at them, and they all scatter.
Well, that's it. They just run back to that log that's fallen across the creek, and they're sort of just again jump and chirping like, "Is that all you can do, really?" And out of frustration, yeah, he looks down at his belt and can't find anything there to use as a weapon, unfortunately. And bends down and picks up some rocks from the stream and starts hurling at him. Doesn't appear to hit anything, of course, because we can't see an animal die in these films, unfortunately. That's
not necessarily true. I mean, we will get to that later.
With the Rex?
The raptor.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's. I meant by human weapons.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Slightly going back to the trailer for Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. Just personnel carriers with soldiers and weapons. Some people are assuming that, oh no, we're going to see animals get shot now. I don't think we're ever going to see animals get shot. People will shoot. We've seen it with the hunters. People will open fire on animals, but they won't get harmed. But after he sort of chases the animals away and throws the rocks at him, he turns and he starts murmuring something, as we said in the last minute, whether it's Russian or Swedish or his native tongue. I haven't looked into it too much of what Peter Stromae's local language is. I have no doubt he's making full use of that now. But
no, actually, apparently there was Peter Stormare kind of just winged that line, and Spielberg liked it and said, "Do that on camera."
Yeah, and I've got no issue with it at all. Like, I've got no idea what he's saying, but I can imagine after just having his.
I think he's saying like little demons or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of curses in there as well. Just having these little sons of bitches on his arms and taking a chunk out of his lip. I also love here too, have you got this just the afternoon sun just piercing through the trees and the forest.
Yeah,
and
the fog wafting into the scene.
Yeah, yep.
It's great. It actually reminds me a lot of the Lost World Matchbox commercial.
Yep.
Which is one of my favorite toy commercials for the Lost World.
Now, I wonder... I assume there's a smoke machine on set for this.
I mean, they probably wouldn't have needed it at this point.
Yeah.
Filming like early November in this.
Either way, it's
September, so a lot of that fog was probably natural.
Yeah. Either way, it's like timed perfectly. Just the way they've had this shot set up with Dieter in the stream and this fog coming down this low-lying area. Just, again, another one of these fantastic shots about just this lost world, this island. I just love it. But he takes a look at the blood on his hands and sort of he touches his lip a little bit and sort of again, walking back towards that large pool of water behind him that he was heading for before. And he sort of yells out again, "Hey, Roland." And then we cut back away from Dita roaming in the forest. And the survivors at the thing, we got Sarah with her head against a tree sleeping.
It kind of looks like she fell asleep there.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. You got to watch Nick Van Owen when Roland goes to reach for his gun. And it's almost like a kid who knows he's done something wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And he's waiting for the parent to catch him. But thankfully for his sake, Roland doesn't catch it until it's too late.
If you look at guilty in the dictionary, you've got a photo of Nick in this scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's hard to imagine what he's guilty of at this point, where, okay, he's just pulled the shells out and unload the rifle or shotgun, but what he's actually done later on just beggars belief. Not only did he took the shells out, but he took the rounds out and emptied the gunpowder out and then put the empty shells back in. So at least Roland, if ever he opens his shotgun and sees the ends of the shells, he can see the primers haven't been struck. He can see that the ammunition's still in there. And he can sit there and fire. This is dangerous, considering they're heading into hostile territory.
No, Roland. I'm sorry. Nick is not thinking forward at all on this.
Again, from fan comments, I'd love Nick to be part of this Save the Dinosaurs campaign.
I would too. It would suit him perfectly.
If there's ever a point where he can come back, it is now. Cameo. Yeah. But it's funny here too. Roland picks up his rifle and he sort of looks off in the forest ahead of him and puts his hat on. He sort of the shot hangs there for a little bit while he does that. Now we just had the Dita yelling at, "Hey, Roland!" Now I'm seeing this more of him just sort of focusing on the path ahead, and then he turns back to the group and says, "Okay, break over, moving on." So I think it was just the fact that he was looking forward at the path ahead and not that he may have heard something from Dita, because as soon as Dita fell down that hill, he's well out of voice range of anyone.
I will admit, when I went to Fern Canyon, I couldn't help myself. I had to yell, "Hey, Roland."
Oh, lovely. You didn't take a tumble down a hill, did you?
Fortunately, no.
But that's just another great little scene here where everyone's sort of like slowly getting to their feet. Roland sort of walks off screen, everyone starts following in his direction as well. And then you get sort of Ian start to walk. He's limping really badly.
Yeah, he's limping. Yeah, and so it's interesting that they kind of brought that injury back for the shot, you know?
I didn't look that closely, even if it's the same leg. Again, the whole nostalgia thing. Okay, we're going for his damaged leg. I thought it was really interesting that Kelly asked him to carry her.
I know. She's a 12-year-old girl asking her father, who's limping, to carry her.
Yeah.
No, you walk.
You stopped getting carried when you were 6.
Yeah.
I just found that really weird. Because even in the previous minutes, like 70 or 68, where we've seen them come in just before they set up camp here, you can see Ian sort of grabbed Kelly by the shoulders and sort of helping along, taking some of the weight off her, but to full out carry me. Oh, you poor girl. You'll be alright. You're the youngest and the fittest out of everyone. Also, love here too. You see Ludlow. He's got the map out. It looks like he's got a magnifying glass or something on the map as well. And he's sort of just wandering around, sort of looking at it, and then follows the group as they leave camp. I still don't think he knows where they are. I can just see Roland like sort of walked away after the previous conversation, just like dot here, dot there, done, and just left him. And he's like, but wait, there's a tree here or a tree there.
Why is the map not detailed enough?
Yeah.
And then Bert gets up. He was laying on the ground, like literally laying spread eagle on the ground.
On his belly, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think it was on his back because there's dirt all over up his vest.
Okay. Yeah, so they've had a good break anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But finally we cut to Carter sitting back up in his little hilltop there, listening to his music, and a hunter comes up and calls his name a couple of times, and he ignores, obviously, because he's got that music playing in his ear. And the hunter bends over and picks up something off the ground, throws at him, instead of taking a couple of steps closer and tapping on the shoulder. I always thought this was like a young Michael Biehn from Terminator fame, but or in Aliens, I suppose, but it's obviously not. But yeah, just here we get this sort of scene where it takes something getting thrown at Carter to get his attention, and I just love how when he pulls his earphones off his head and puts them on his shoulder, they play even louder, which his ears absorbed the music somehow. And
I think it's funny how the camera pans down and you can see Dieter's bag, and he doesn't even notice it. I mean, it's a big black bag among some green ferns and red dirt, and he doesn't even glance at it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's right in his line of sight, and he doesn't even think.
Well, yeah, and this is where the minute ends. So the hunter sort of gestures to Carter that we're moving on, and he bends over, picks up his backpack, and walks away. And as we get into minute 75, we get this pullback to Dieter's backpack right there, and without even doing that, he knows Dieter walked past the front of him. He walked past and hasn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
I question having headphones on in the jungle on a dinosaur-infested island where any little sound would spook you. Okay, it might be a coping mechanism, him having his earphones, so he's not jumping left and right and firing his gun off every time he hears a rustle of a bush, which I'd fully accept. I probably would.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, but no, we end here with him getting up and completely ignoring that Dieter had walked past him at all, and his backpack on the ground. And that's where we leave off.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, anything else on 74 you want to get to before we end the week?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So that's it for minute 74. Next week is Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
We hope you have a safe time off work and everything else. We're going to take a week off, of course, and we'll be back the week later for 75, 76.
All right.
All right, guys. Let's get the hell out of here.
Contact details are on the website, thelostworldminute.com. You can email feedback to thelostworldminute@gmail.com, Facebook, The Lost World Minute, Twitter @TheLostWorldMinute, and Instagram, The Lost World Minute.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, very easy to remember. Right. David, thank you for joining me for this record.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back. I've been Brad.
I'm Dave.
And we'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
It is absolutely imperative that we work with the Costa Rican Department of Biological Preserves to establish a set of rules for the preservation and isolation of that island. These creatures require our absence to survive, not our help. And if we could only step aside and trust in nature, life will find a way.